welcome on into VG Emporium, video game music and more. I'm your host, Rage Cage, and today I have Gene here with me again with a really cool topic.
Hey everybody, Gene here from Pixelated Audio. I've already been on the show, I think once before. I had a really great time. I'm back here again doing a little bit more bargain hunting.
Well, so many bargains. That's the beauty of an emporium. You can just look all over the place and just find the coolest things for only a cent.
Yeah, I'm looking for some used game companies, no longer in business. If you've got any of those.
Oh yeah, no, I got that section right there, and even got them by, you could say, by state. I think I think you'd be interested in, like, you know, some from our home state here, California.
Oh yeah,
I imagine you're familiar with some of them.
I have heard of the state California. Yeah, I've been here a few years. Actually, since about this game came out.
Oh damn.
Yeah. So
it's probably about the same time I've been here too.
So we were talking back and forth, and I don't know why I've been wanting to do a show about this. Maybe it's the nostalgia talking, getting older, but I've really wanted to do a show on music from defunct game companies, and I think there's a million of them. I could have picked any of them, but I specifically picked California because I personally have a lot of memories with at least 3 of the games that I picked, and, you know, like actual real world, out in the world life experiences that, you know, have to do with these companies. So it was kind of like a, you know, an opportunity for me to sort of reminisce and, you know, think about how much not only the industry but California and the Bay Area has changed. And I know you're not in the Bay Area, but you're close enough. So
yeah. No, I'm a SoCal, like, Los Angeles transplant, but I moved out here probably around the same time as you did, like about 90, 91 or so. So it's like I have barely any memories of there, and I've been a foothill foothill bumpkin since the early 90s. So
foothill bumpkin, what does that mean?
Well, I've been living in the Gold Country, so, like, you know, Auburn, Placerville, so, like, basically the places before you get to the Sierra Mountains. I'm in the foothills. Gold Country.
There's so many little foothills in California that when you say that, I have to ask you to be specific.
Oh yeah, sorry.
The eastern foothills of, like, you know, the Bay Area, East Bay, is like 20-minute drive for me, and I'm like, you're not that close.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, because, like, you know, I just say the Sierra foothills. Come on down for your apple and gold panning. I don't know.
Nah, I'm from the Bay.
Okay, well then
cool.
You keep your salty water. I'll stay with my river and my Giardia, and you know, have foam coming out with me. All right. But yeah, no, I'm really excited to kind of hear what you'd have to say about these game companies, because, again, I was from Los Angeles, and if I had, you know, stayed down there, my family stayed down there, I probably would have had some experience with some of those companies down there, because, you know, I would have had access to downtown, you know, all those places. So I'd be kind of interested to hear what you have to say about it all.
So I brought this track in. This is one of the first PC games I ever played, and little secret for you, I picked the FM version, but I'll be honest, I heard it on PC speaker.
Oh,
because I did not have a sound card on my very first computer. It was like a 386 or 286.
Delightful.
Yeah, well, it's still a pretty good tune. That was from the game Test Drive 3, The Passion, composed by Russel Shiffer. The Passion. So, a couple things. This game was by Accolade, which I did not write notes, but if I remember correctly, Accolade was kind of an offshoot of, I want to say, Activision. So, you know, the old game pioneers, either Atari or Activision. A lot of the people were like, well, screw this, like, big corporate thing. We're going to start our own thing. And in the late 80s, actually mid-80s even, a lot of these companies just sort of sprung up that were, you know, you get like 3DO and all these other things that happened later. All of these people just sort of came together. You know, briefly, they were either working for Apple or Atari or Activision. And then, you know, that's kind of what seeded that first generation of game companies in the Bay Area. And funny story, I remember I was very young. I don't know, like 7, 8. And I remember driving around. I don't know why I was driving around this part of town, but I remember, like, looking up, as you do when you're a kid, kind of because you're bored, and seeing on the side of a building the giant Accolade logo. And I think it was the first time I remember that association with, like, the games that I play come from a real place.
A real place. That
you know what I mean?
Near you.
Yeah, they didn't just end up on a store shelf somewhere with like a logo for a game company that I recognize just from seeing. It's like, no, this is like 20, 30 minutes away from my house. And it was like the Accolade logo with the bar through it, just like the real one, and I think they died around 2000, to be honest. But Accolade never made the greatest games. And in fact, I lived in an apartment. It was no longer Accolade at this point, but I lived in an apartment right next to that building. And every time I drove by, I was like, man, I remember when that was a game company, which is, I guess, my version of, I remember when this used to be Orchards, which is the old California.
Yeah.
Everybody who's been in California for longer than I have it used to be Orchards, which is true. It's just, it sounds very old and nostalgic, but I guess I remember when game companies used to be here.
Dang.
Not only that, I don't want to. Let's chat a little bit more. I have a little bit more to say about this specific game, but I don't want to run you off your own show.
No, go. Like that's kind of why I had
all
you on here, because this is something that you wanted to talk about, and I was like, all right, let's get you out here.
So I mentioned this was one of my very first games. So funny story about Test Drive 3. Have you played it before?
I have not. I have not been a PC gamer at all until like the mid 2000s or so, because I did not grow with a PC at home. Okay,
Test Drive 3 is weird. It's like somebody made a driving sim game, open world, and then just sold that. The objectives are, there's barely any. You drive around literally in pseudo 3D.
Okay.
You can drive kind of not infinitely, but it feels like it. It's one of those games.
Okay.
There's obstacles like bridges that you can jump over if you really gun it. The graphics are primitive enough that the cars all kind of look like the Cybertruck that Tesla just put out.
Ooh, that's bulletproof.
Which is one of the reasons why. Which is one of the reasons why I wanted to talk about this. I'm like, wow, Elon Musk really went back to some old video games for inspiration. Now, I don't condone getting your games from a truck, but I did have some cousins that handed me a couple of diskettes full of games that either had copy protection broken or, so, just imagine little Gene wearing some sunglasses playing this game. You pass through the, you need to type in the, the thing using the code wheel to get past the copy protection. Not this guy. So that's been my experience with the Test Drive 3.
That's something I kind of wish I had gotten to experience, was just like that. Having just even a basic PC at home and be able to play all these weird, cool games that were coming out.
It's still weird. It's still weird. I don't recommend you go back and play it necessarily, but load up one of those archive.org DOSBox things and just run it for 5 minutes.
Yeah, I've gone back and downloaded DOSBox and all these different old PC emulators. Even I got that Mio Mini that Brian has.
Oh yeah,
and I've been able to get DOSBox and even Scum VM running on it. So they have the cores for that on the RetroArch. So that's been pretty interesting to play around with.
Oh man, so many Sierra games played on that old PC. I think I barely managed to get it to run Doom, or that might have been the next version. I don't remember. But in any case, the Accolade, I don't have much to say about the company itself other than, let's be honest, the games they were making were never going to cut mustard. They were boring sports games, simulation games, cheap knockoffs of better franchises. It happens. I'm a little sad to see them go, just because I do have a lot of memories attached to their games. They were a huge games publisher, but it happens. So what did you bring? Because we agreed on this theme a little while ago. I honestly have no idea what your picks are. I mean, I looked at the list.
Oh, you're gonna love this stuff. So I've got I got one game that I have actually played, which came out in the mid 2000s. But we're gonna start with one that I was very surprised and excited to see, and was surprised I was actually able to get it to run on my PC or on my laptop, because again, you have me digging into old PC games for a track like last time. But like I said, I think you're like this. This is coming from a game called Windblows Microshaft 98. And I'm gonna go through a couple here because they're pretty short, but so I'm gonna start with the startup, and then we're gonna do, what is this, Bill Gates Roll Ahead Herbal Tea, and then Pinbill.
Okay, let's give it a whirl.
Okay, so that was Windblows Microshaft 98. That was the startup. Then Bill Gates Roll Ahead, Herbal Tea, and then Pinbill. And I don't know who composed these. Actually, hold up. Oh, I did find who composed these. This is done by what's called Chronic Music, and it's a combination of Eric Cunningham, Chris Lang, Ron Schurz, and Johann Langlie. And this was developed and published by Parroty Games.
This brings me back to a time and a place where Microsoft was still spelled with a $sign.
Wait, it
no,
was?
Of course not. But you remember in
okay.
the late 90s, early 2000s, everybody was always bashing Microsoft, and they would always, write their name with a S. Instead of an S, they would have a $sign because, CD keys and greedy Microsoft and all of that, and whatever. It's a big company. What are we going to do? But the backlash against them was huge. Obviously, it sounds like they made an entire Windows parody game. Why, I don't know.
Well, because this was made just before the release of Windows 98. So you have games you can play like Pinbill, Bill Gates Roll Ahead, and what's the other one? It's like some quiz game or something like that. And then you have these two people, like a janitor and then just some random office lady, and they're just they introduce you to the thing, and then they're just constantly yapping if you're not doing anything on the home screen. And then you have all these different options to do that require an internet connection through some ancient archaic web browser, which you can't use with any other newer things. You have to get those things. So I opted out for that. So there's not some things I didn't get to check out, but I got the main idea. You go to the startup, and it gives you all these different options, but then it opens up a window, like a little side window after side window after side window, and it just trails forever.
There's an entire subgenre of games that's literally just trawling through old fake OSs. I love it.
Yeah, I've considered buying one or two of those before. I found something that I enjoyed a lot more, but yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Hypnospace is currently the reigning champion right now in that sphere. Oh, Hypnospace Outlaw is so good.
That's one I've been looking at too. I'm not. I've been playing World of Horror, which is kind of similar, menu based.
Oh yeah, that's
interactive with everything.
Is that the one that's kind of old black and white Macintosh? I've been eyeing that one for a while.
Yeah, it's supposed to be old Apple II adventure games and stuff, or Mac adventure games. So HyperCard style, all 1-bit. And yeah, the art style is very much inspired by Junji Ito, and a lot of the story is inspired by H.P. Lovecraft and all this kind of crazy body horror stuff and cosmic horror. So that's really good. But let's see, Parroty Games. As you can probably imagine, the name. It makes parody games, and their mascot is a parrot with the Groucho Marx mustache, glasses, and cigar. So that tells you going
naturally.
on. Yeah.
Naturally.
And
you know,
let's see. Naturally.
Is it a real company, or is it one of these like kind of jokey internet collectives that comes together to like quote unquote make
it's a real
game?
company.
Okay.
It started in 1996 and went defunct in 1999.
Okay.
So not too long, but it was established in Larkspur, so in Marin County, just north of where you're at.
Yeah.
And then they made a few games. Like their first one was Pissed, which was a parody on Myst.
I love to. You're like the only other person I've talked to that remembers Pissed. Probably for the best.
I don't remember Pissed. I didn't know about any of this. I did not know about any of this until you brought this subject up. So
okay, I'm just gonna tell you.
I'm learning as I go.
This is like the second time on a podcast I brought this up. Watch the ending to Pissed. It is. I'm just gonna spoil it for you. It's John Goodman in a bathtub.
Oh no. Oh boy.
It's great. It's great.
I could show you a whole other side of Pissed Island that you've never experienced. Yes, no, yes, you haven't. And you won't, because I'm saving it for the sequel. Aren't hot tubs wonderful?
Chef's kiss. John Goodman has been a treasure for so many years. I don't know why he agreed to that project, but I'm so glad that he did.
Well, probably sometime after the Flintstones, that he just wanted something to blow off steam, maybe. I don't know. But so what other games they've done is Star Warped, which is of course a parody on Star Wars, but also including Star Trek and a bunch of other sci-fi parody stuff.
Well, you've got to.
X-Fools.
Like X-Files, I get it, of course.
X-Files parody, yeah. And then, in 1999, they were acquired by, The Learning Company.
Oh, man.
And now, they're just, like, because I think before Parody Interactive started, I think whoever started worked on making, like, kind of like edutainment style games. So they basically just bought the company and took their assets to use for, edutainment stuff. Like I said, I only barely, did just a small amount of research just before we got this call started. So I had all this time to do it, and I decided to wait until the last half hour. So,
that whole edutainment thing is its own. Not only I've wanted to do a show on our own podcast about edutainment, but not only that, it's its own like rabbit hole of essentially mergers and acquisitions, and basically the entire industry imploded. And it makes me a little bit sad. I understand why it happened, but like now it's just sort of cheap mobile games where it's just like, match these things together. Whereas they put some real effort in some of those edutainment games when we were kids. But anyway, yeah. I don't want to go down that one, that read a rabbit hole, of course.
That's another day. Another digging through the shelves. I'm pretty sure I got it back there someplace. But yeah, that's what I got for you. Parody games.
And I didn't really get a chance to mention it, but I loved that ambient track. It was like Donkey Kong Country meets phone hold music, and it's like, this is a jam.
Very strange to, like, you wouldn't expect it in like a parody game. You'd expect more like something like Pinbill, just like weird cheesy electronic, or the Espresso one is like this kind of rockin', like heavy guitar riffing with like a kind of a break beat kind of going in the background. But nope, you get this nice chilled out track while Bill Gates and Steve Jobs are competing to get the most money.
The times we lived in. They're gone now. Like what's the quote from Blade Runner? Like tears in the rain.
Oh jeez. Oh no. Oh. Well, what's your next game here, sir?
So my next game is... I never get tired of talking about this one. I have, for those of you that know me even a little bit, I'm a big fan of birds. Crows in particular, but birds in general. So I have music from the 32X game, probably the only one that anybody remembers, Kolibri, by the company Appaloosa or Novatrade. I am not going to go into their entire history. I'll summarize what I remember about that when we get there, but it's an interesting game. So let's take a listen to that track. This is, I think it was Zone 2. I can't remember, or Track 2. I don't remember the exact one, but I don't have a number or named track list, so I apologize.
I think I found it. It's called Penetration.
Nice. Nice coincidence.
Yeah. Yeah, so Penetration from Kolibri by Zsolt Dvornik. Well, welcome back from that. That was Penetration from Kolibri, composed by, I'm going to try this again, Zsolt Dvornik.
I think it's Zsolt Dvornik, probably, or something along those lines.
Dvornik? Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I'm saying it in a bit of a Russian accent because that's unfortunately what I was born with. But, you know, the Appaloosa and Novatrade, I can't remember how the name change happened. They're originally a Hungarian company, and I learned about this fairly recently. maybe a little bit of trivia for you. I don't know if you know this, but I learned this from They Create Worlds. Shout out to a really wonderful podcast, They Create Worlds. They're not a video game music podcast, but we partnered with them. They are a video game history podcast, often talking about the business side, the game, not so much the game development side, but the how did Sega form from a company in the 1920s as like a jukebox company till eventually the game company they are today. Like they're tracing these histories. You may have seen the movie recently or heard about it, but the Tetris movie came out, about a year ago or 6 months ago, something like that. And I believe, if I remember my history from They Create Worlds, Tetris was handled by Hungarian developers because it was an interesting sort of middle ground. It was like they had they were a little bit sort of behind the Iron Curtain, It was still, when Tetris first released, the Soviet Union was still a thing. They were trying to figure out how to market and sell this thing, but international trade rights were such a pain. They weren't just going to hand it to an American company. They weren't going to hand it to some Japanese company. So they're like, well, some Soviet bloc country that has some good developers, that is like a little bit less in the control of the Soviet Union, so they can kind of like have those meetings. And so like, I'm sure that's talked about in the movie in grandiose, overgeneralized terms. But yeah, Hungary was the country that was sort of the broker that made Tetris happen and put that on the map. And I genuinely don't know how many Hungarian companies there are, but I'm going to count them as Californian because they spent so many years in the Bay Area. And I think people would know them probably best for their work on Echo the Dolphin, which I think that's the first game that genuinely made me feel uncomfortable. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
I've played bad games. I've played games that were like, made me mad or frustrated. But when you're playing Echo the Dolphin, you're like, this is like dread. I feel,
yeah.
I'm the last dolphin on Earth, basically. I'm going to talk to ancient beings that have been here since time immemorial. I'm traveling through a vortex to fight a giant xenomorph. I'm like, this is weird. This is so weird. And the entire journey just gets weirder. And this is the same thing. 32X exclusive. This is basically like Echo the Dolphin, but bird, right? So instead of being a dolphin, you're just a hummingbird. It's a shmup. It's sort of open-ended. The graphics are just absolutely beautiful. It's like, peak 16-bit pixel art with great dithering effects, beautiful landscapes, jungle and woodlands and probably all sorts of weird other things. It's just like, it was right before 3D became a thing, but it is just so stunning to look at. It's not the best game, but it's like...
Yeah, but it looks...
it's beautiful.
Yeah,
the pixel art
really
is unmatched.
Pretty.
Yeah, it's so good. And the music is weird. I love it. It's weird.
Yeah, I played a little bit of this game again on my Mio Mini. Thank you, Brian. Just like, I was just going through different ROMs. Like, I think I was going through like CD Romance, and I saw Kolibri, and I was like, I haven't heard it. I think I heard about this one before, but I was never really seen it, so I decided to try it out. And yeah, it looks really nice, but the gameplay was really interesting. Like, I think I got as far as picking up some pebbles or something that I was spitting out at weird bees and shit. So I don't know.
Yeah, to be honest, another company that I'm not surprised to see fell. They were one of the companies that got really lucky in that they were around in the 80s and 90s, and they were able to make just bizarre, directionless games. I don't mean that they were directionless in the sense that there wasn't things to do. I guess that's kind of been my theme, right?
Yeah.
So far. But like, they were able to make games that were somewhat avant-garde, if you will, and then the 2000s happen, the consolidation of game companies, the game industry starts getting real, and companies that do weird experiments and that sort of AA mid-sized company really start to fall by the wayside around this time, which is sad.
AAA mindset started to really take hold.
What if Echo the Dolphin but bird, right? Like, that's basically that's the whole philosophy of the game.
I'd imagine I can imagine my mom would like this game because she loves hummingbirds. So, you know, hey, I might have to show it to her.
I mean, maybe even just like watching a playthrough and just appreciating the art and the music and like, I don't know, man.
Yeah,
Like
no,
I don't want to say they don't make games like this anymore. They probably should have never made a game like this in the first place, but I'm glad they did.
Yeah. Well, I have a game right here that they probably should not, you know, well, they made because, of course, they had to make it, but, you know, it probably shouldn't happen. So I got Captain Planet and the Planeteers. This is done by Novalogic, so another Nova company. And this is Hoggish Greedley's Undersea Oil Rig. Welcome back. That was Hoggish Greedley's Undersea Oil Rig from Captain Planet and the Planeteers, developed and published by Novalogic.
Huh.
And yeah, this is not related to the other Captain Planet and the Planeteers game that was on the NES. Different company, different developer. This is its own thing, and it's kind of a one-off because this company, Novalogic, is most known for their games, the Comanche series and Delta Force series, which I think Comanche was like a helicopter sim.
Yeah.
And then Delta Force is like a first-person kind of like shooter game thing.
Huh.
But yeah. So I actually have some info on Novalogic here. I wrote some stuff down in my PS1 notebook. Isn't that
cool?
You
have a PS1 notebook? Awesome.
Yeah, I got it for Christmas. My sister got it for me. It has just the PS1, the controllers, all this stuff on the front, and it just has the logo. But yeah, so what I got here is Novalogic started in 1985 and went defunct as of 2016. They were based in Malibu, so SoCal down there. What is that ending?
That throws me every time.
Yeah. Okay, so this they've like I said, Comanche series, the Delta Force series. Though interestingly, it never got released, but they were the company that was developing Super Mario's Wacky World on the CDI.
Ooh.
And I think so. There's been like some videos of that have been released, like showing like kind of in progress of it from someplace out of nowhere. And then they did a lot of ports like early computer ports. So they did like Bubble Bobble and Arkanoid on the DOS and Apple II, and Chessmaster on the Game Gear, which is the one that they're really known for as well. And they were bought out by THQ Nordic, and basically Novalogic was just shoved underneath the rug and never to be heard from again.
Those mergers and acquisitions, they just so much. And that's going to be a theme. There's going to be a theme for some of my stuff too. But I got to say, what threw me a little bit was that this company, like, I'd never heard of them before. I guess I'm not surprised. I'm also not surprised that they had a hand in working on some CDI game that got shelved. We're talking 32X CDI. This is definitely the burial grounds for companies that worked on weird, junky old hardware.
It's quite silly, isn't it?
I don't hate the track. It's not like the best composed thing, but it's got a nice little groove to it.
My liking of FM music, Sega Genesis stuff, I can definitely say I like this one. Out of all the tracks of this from the game, this is the one that stood out to me because it has the most energy, like actually most coherent, despite that ending. That weird, I don't know what to explain it as, but it's just a really nice use of all the patches and composition-wise, and it's not annoying, unlike some of the other ones. So that's what I gotta say.
No, it's not too bad. I'm trying to look up.
I couldn't find a composer for it, but I probably didn't dig long enough. I think I found it on Moby Games, but it just says contribute credits. So I don't know.
Yeah, it doesn't list who wrote the music, which is so weird. I mean, they list a lot of the other credits, but just not music. But oh well.
Yeah.
Mystery person, feel free to step up and say that you did this. But so, why did you pick this one? Is it just because you like the music, or something about this company that was interesting to you?
Well, just the fact, Captain Planet and the Planeteers, and then all the other games are just weird, like helicopter and first-person army simulator games. So it's just like, kind of a weird game that they made. And plus was just looking through a bunch of list of California-based games and looking for ones that were defunct, and this is just one that kind of was like, okay, here we go. So no reason.
Hey,
no reason.
If somebody knocks on your door and says, "Do you want to make a Captain Planet video game?" the answer is yes. I guess. I don't know.
Yes, because damn, Captain Planet was big. I loved Captain Planet.
Oh yeah.
I don't know what Ted Turner was on at the time, but he made something. He made something that grabbed me. So kudos to him.
It was weirdly big, wasn't it? It was like,
it
was like the X-Men we have at home, right? You watch Captain Planet.
Yeah. Oh no. It's just, I don't know. And then there's like that whole thing that happened with I think Don Cheadle recently did the whole Captain Planet thing, which was like weird kind of like psychological madness stuff. And then
I don't know about this. What is this?
I don't know. Just look up YouTube, Captain Planet, Don Cheadle. It's really bizarre. He just has like this weird kind of uncanny smile, and it's just I can't explain it.
Wait, so is he Captain Planet or?
Yeah, he's Captain Planet. He's all in like this metallic blue body paint, has the wig and wearing the costume and everything, and it's weird as fuck. That's all I'm gonna say.
I might look that up, but I don't know. There's a lot of weird stuff already in this show. I don't know if I need more of that in my life right now.
I don't know. Quick rundown on this game though is you get to pick a stage and play as a Planeteer. So think Spider-Man and the X-Men Arcade's Revenge, where each stage is assigned to a specific, mutant, or in this case, Planeteer, though.
A paragon of good game design. Yeah, you definitely look at Spider-Man and the X-Men for how to design a game.
Yeah. And, you just go on and fight all the different polluting baddies. So you got, Hoggish Greedley, Rat Dude, lady with weird melted side face thing and her computer husband, and Money Man. I don't remember their names.
I don't remember either, but I can picture them. Blonde lady who looks like she used to be in a gem cover band, and dude in like a tiger print suit or something like that.
Yep.
I don't know what people were on. I mean, I know it was definitely drugs, but I feel like all the good stuff is gone now, because what we see nowadays is nothing like the weird 80s and 90s. Why? There was a Beetlejuice cartoon, dude. What the heck?
Yeah, there was. And I loved it. It was great. It was weird, but it was great. I loved it. But what have you got? What have you got for us next? What strange thing do you have for us next?
Okay. So this one's going to require a bit of a story, but the music itself requires very little introduction. This is from the game Tiger Woods PGA Tour 2003. This is the menu theme, composed by Burke Trieschmann. That was the menu theme from Tiger Woods PGA Tour 2003, composed by Burke Trieschmann.
That's
early 2000s, isn't
yes,
it?
Very early 2000s. Ugh.
Yeah, sort of, you know, what do you call that? You know, like big beat, break beat,
yeah,
kind of slow jam thing with like some weird little synth interludes here and there. So,
and weird little elements of like kind of not quite smooth jazz, like almost like it could be hold music.
Oh, absolutely could have been hold music. In the late 90s and early 2000s, and this is from the company EA, you know, Electronic Arts, Redwood Shore specifically, which, again, very close to where I am. And it's technically the site of, like, the main EA headquarters. But this is one of those, like, weird on a technicality kind of stories about a company that no longer exists. So I'll kind of get into it, but basically we all know who EA is. And in fact, when we talked to Brian Schmidt over at Pixelated Audio, he was writing a lot of this kind of stuff. It was like a little bit hip-hop, a little bit R&B, a little bit rock, a little bit of electronic, just like very like...
A little bit.
It was...
A little bit of porn, little bit of porn strumming. A
little bit, yeah. It was all just music that you would write for like...
incidental?
Library music, that's what I was thinking. So they were writing a lot of this kind of stuff, and I just happen to like this jam. And so what's what's really interesting about EA Redwood Shores is they were literally just making like licensed sports games. It was like becoming incredibly monotonous, generic. Tiger Woods was kind of their big claim to fame. And then I think you may remember around the time this happened, the like EA wife story, like people are getting super overworked in the games industry. There was this whole like, you know, at least at the time, they sort of pretended like they were going to change working conditions in the games industry and they were going to start opening things up to creativity. Well, you know, for a little bit within the context of EA. And then this is timely because Dead Space just came out, but Don Vecca, who I actually met in person, was the audio director for EA, or at least on many projects, and he was the audio director for Dead Space. And at the time, I was, you know, around 2006, 2007, I was taking classes in college, and I met Don, and he gave a talk on how they did the sound design for Dead Space. Actually, that might have been 2009, 2010. But it was like, so I just recently went to Game Sound Con, where I'm sorry, I'm name dropping a little bit, where I met Brian Schmidt, who we talked to, and we saw
and I saw some of those pictures.
Oh yeah, they were super cool. It was just a great talk. But one of the coolest things about hearing all of the game developers talking about their dynamic audio engines and the interactive audio is it's like Don's team did it first, or like they were the ones that really made a splash. Like in 2006 or 7, if you were making a game, maybe it was Gears of War, maybe it was like some stupid, you know, like Tom Clancy game.
Long ago.
Yeah, I know, right? And then 2008, Dead Space comes out, and everybody's like, whoa, okay. EA is actually putting out some creative games, right? We got Mirror's Edge, we got Dead Space. And he went on this really awesome talk about you know, the 360's resources were quite limited. So they had to do basically 4 layers of audio and do like some dynamic calculation based on, you know, quote unquote danger level, right? So number of zombies on the screen, number of amount of health, distance to them. And then, you know, whatever that variable was from 0 to 1 is what combination of like ambience that they would play, and then the layers up to the top being like battle layer, like zombies are in your face attacking you. And he talked about all this stuff about how like they recorded with an orchestra, I think it was like in Prague. They had all of these samples, stingers that they used, you know, like an annoying like violin shriek sound or like a timpani hit. All these things that they would like trigger to make it sound more dynamic than it was, because they were really just working with these like 4-hour-long audio files essentially that they would have to like switch through dynamically. And one thing that I thought was really neat about this, I love this story, he sent one of his sound recordists to sit on the BART, I don't know, for like 2 days, 3 days, until they could get the like grinding sound. If you go underneath, if you go from Oakland to San Francisco because it's underwater, sometimes if you get unlucky, certain trains, certain tracks, certain times a day, you have just like this extremely uncomfortable like metal on metal sound. And he was just sitting there with like, you know, his field recording kit, boom mic, just like riding the train back and forth until they finally got it. And I don't know, I haven't actually played Dead Space 1 or the remake. But it's used in like, I guess there's a hallway somewhere around the middle of the game where they like really don't want you to linger. It's like maybe a save room, but it's like, you know, trying to progress. So they're using psychological tricks to get you to move forward. And it's our beloved shrieking Bart sound, which I thought was super funny. And the reason why I brought this company up, and I'm not going to go down this road, is like they almost did it. They became Visceral Games in 2009 because Dead Space was so successful. And then they made Dead Space 2, which was pretty good. And then there was so much meddling, and Dead Space 3 was a disaster that they basically, you know, it's still part of EA, but they clawed it back. They sold it for parts. They tore the studio apart. Okay, yes, EA remade Dead Space recently, but it's been 15 years. It's probably not the same team. There's probably like one name in common. I'm not going to fact check that. I'm just saying like, you know, and I know that actually the Dead Space remake is really good. I'm not talking trash on it. It's just like it's the ship of Theseus
Yeah.
thing, right? Like, can we really call it the same company that made the original Dead Space when you're cycling through an EA? So I'm calling them Defunct,
Yeah. No, that makes sense.
It's a shame, too, because, of course, like, they gave them a little bit of leash. They let the reins go a little bit, but they just couldn't help with that corporate meddling. And so, they probably burned a lot of good people out.
No.
Yeah.
God, the money's
I know.
to get you.
What did you play Dead Space? Do you have any experience with the game? I know this is actually technically Tiger
I,
Woods.
Tiger Woods, but who plays Tiger Woods? Who plays
a lot of people.
PGA Tour?
Oh my God! It was an annual series for like 15 years, a decade, 15 years.
Yeah,
like
I saw that, but still, who's playing it? Who's playing it enough to make it an annual thing? Guy. But yeah, no, I played Dead Space, and I played Dead Space 2. Probably about maybe 5 years after the fact that they came out.
Yeah.
And yeah, I did enjoy them. It's kind of a toss up. Like I enjoy Dead Space 1 and 2 equally. It's kind of like the same thing with like Alien and Aliens. Like they're two very different games, two very different style of movies, but like they're both equally enjoyable in their own ways.
Yeah.
But I have a very good memory because my sister, just a little younger than I am, like played it. This is like maybe 8 years or so ago. Like that, she and her boyfriend were playing through them again.
Yeah.
And she got really freaked out by the necromorphs, especially the first one you encounter with the big old scythe arms. So every once in a while, when she wasn't expecting it, I just raise my arms up, kind of sight them out, and make the sound, and just come at her and freak her the hell out. So yeah.
Props to the sound team, Dawn, Vecca, if you're out there. Much respect. And who was the composer? Give me 1 second. I'm going to look that up. I should know this. I think it's Jason Graves. I believe it's Jason Graves, who I did actually meet at VGM Con.
Ooh, lucky fella.
Yeah, he's a really cool guy. He's super nice. I still really want to talk to him on our show. Yes, he wrote most or all of the music. Maybe not like every single bit of incidental music, but yeah, Jason Graves, Don Vecca. I'm sure there are plenty. And as a sound-ish guy myself, much props to all of the sound editors, the audio engineers, the library people who managed all of the hundreds and thousands of files, the programmers who did the game audio engine to make all of that work. Like, it's a really a team effort. I know in our shows we often talk about individuals, composers. And honestly, I feel a little bit bad because I almost did not talk at all about Burke Trieschmann, who is a great composer in his own right. He worked on Toe Jam and Earl 3. He's, I think he worked on, was it Pandemonium? I'll have to look that up. But Burke Trieschmann is one of these like secret killers. Like, you hear his music and it's like, damn, this guy's really good. And you don't really know about him because he's a chameleon. He'll like just kind of take on these projects. He's just like, he's not a name that comes up, but he's solid. Like, he really knows how to write. So I'm mad respect for that guy. I guarantee you've played some of the music or played some of the games that he's worked on music for. Like, I guess he was working on Star Control 2 all the way back when.
Oh, dang.
Yeah.
Maybe.
So he got sucked up in the EA verse, and he was just like too talented for his own good. So he just got turned into a generic composer like so many others. The corporate machine, man.
Ugh.
Anyway.
Well,
That's all I got to say. Props to Burke Trieschmann, too. I know did not give him his due, but I really wanted to use this excuse to talk about Dead Space.
Then that was Tiger Woods PGA Tour 2003. All right, so I got one more here for you. So one more before your last one. So this is a game, one out of all the games here, this is one I've actually played.
Oh.
And it was one of the first games, I think, well, second or third game I got for the PSP.
Huh.
So we're going to be listening to Basement from Death Jr. This is composed by Robert Baffy, and this was developed by Backbone Entertainment. that was Basement from Death Jr., composed by Robert Baffy, and developed by Backbone Entertainment. And yeah, this here was, what was I going to say? Yeah, this is one of my first games on the PSP, other than Luminous. And yeah, it was kind of a, it's just one of those games where you kind of don't really, like, you play it and then you don't think about it afterwards. It's kind of, just a cool little 3D game on the PSP, handheld. You're like, whoa, this is cool.
I feel like there were a lot of like death-themed games weirdly around this time.
Yeah.
On the PSP, like I remember Deadhead Fred.
Oh, did that get on the PSP?
And maybe that's the only other one, but I feel, wasn't it the PSP?
I know there was a PC game.
I thought it was.
But,
maybe I'm thinking of it. No, it was on PSP. Yeah. But yeah, it was just like, it was like not just zombies, although that was obviously even still popular by that point, but like, spooky horror, a little bit of like Invader Zim kind of thing.
Yeah, it was kind of like around that same time, just spooky kids, Invader Zim, a lot of JTHM really getting big again.
Another San Jose legend.
High schoolers.
Yonan Vasquez, straight up, from my hometown.
Dang.
So tell me about Backbone. I remember seeing their logo a lot. I'm not surprised they're gone now, but I remember they did a lot of ports and like retro game collections.
Yeah, this one is interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, they started in 2003, defunct as of 2015. They were based in Emeryville, but so they started because it was a merger between Digital Eclipse and Imagine Engine. So like, Digital Eclipse, which is known for doing their ports of like old arcade games or even like console games to modern consoles, and then Imagine Engine, which was an edutainment company, and somehow these two just came together and started Backbone and made Death Jr., which was kind of like their flagship game. And after that, actually before that, there was a game called Rift, Promise of Power on the N-Gage, which I was trying to get the music for, but I couldn't find any way of getting the music. There was only like gameplay videos with just sound effects going on, no rips of it or anything, and it was pretty interesting stuff. But did do a lot of arcade and console game ports to the Xbox 360. That's another console family I'd never had or owned, so I don't know how all that worked out, if it was just like a arcade or digital thing. And yeah, it's just kind of, that's mostly what they did, was just a lot of ports.
Yeah, I remember their work. I had the Sonic Ultimate Genesis collection. I'm looking at their stuff, and Midway Arcade Origins. So I remember their name mostly from the retro game collections that they did. I know there were some others, but yeah, it's always a little sad to see like a small company either get absorbed or get destroyed. I believe Iron Galaxy is still around, if I'm thinking of them, that still does that same kind of work.
Say, of course, Digital Eclipse. We all know them for like what they've done with like the Street Fighter collection, the Atari 50.
Yeah,
it was just released, and then like all their work with like the that Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles collection that came out as well. Like they obviously survived that. Whatever happened to Backbone, they were able to kind of pull back from that and still do their own thing.
Yeah, I heard that Atari 50 collection was pretty good also.
That's what I've been hearing too. Actually, I went to Sacramento Gamers Con, or Gamers Expo last year in Sacramento, and I met Stephen Frost, who was one of the, I think he's like one of the main producers there at Digital Eclipse, and I got like a quick interview with him too about just all the stuff they were doing, like about the audio behind the scenes stuff. Sick. And just what they're doing there. And yeah, like I have my episode up for that, and yeah, it was really cool just to get to talk to him about that and find out just all the dedication they do, and like just trying to dig up all this information, find all this like just everything about what they're working on, especially with Atari 50, just finding all these old boxes and instruction manuals so they just scan them in, all the interviews they did, and just yeah, it's really cool. It's just a really cool experience. But yeah, I feel like a lot of companies are really doing justice. I remember when this came out recently, but I know we're not talking about Backbone anymore, but Digital Eclipse just did the making of Karateka, which is like a game / commentary thing. Like it's kind of like pop-up video where you see like facts about the game as you're playing, like, and it's just like, why haven't we seen something like this before? It's a simple enough game, and I just love that dedication and respect for, like, let's be honest, Karateka is not
that good of a game in a modern context. Like, even the original Prince of Persia has aged a little bit better, but it's super important because you don't get Prince of Persia without karateka or karateka. I don't know how that's pronounced. So it's like, you know, just like that recognition of game history is super cool, you know, without, because I think it's so easy for us to focus on like the objectivity of a game's quality, but it's like, well, you don't get this without that, you know. And like I think people love the Devil May Cry series, but we had to struggle through Devil May Cry 2 to get there, you know, because it was, but that was a whole other story, because, you know, changing developers and things. But it's like, you know, if it had died right there, we wouldn't have this great series. And so like there are these, I struggle to talk about this in games because people do not appreciate those like incremental steps, you know, like Street Fighter 1, who cares? But Street Fighter 2,
jank,
right? You know.
Yeah, that's the you got to have the jank if you want the good stuff.
Well, pretty much.
That's where they're figuring stuff out.
Absolutely, yeah. Like, you don't get Street Fighter 2 as Street Fighter 1. It never, you know, it would have been called something. Yeah. It would have been a game before it. You know what I mean? Like, and so I don't know.
Yeah.
I do appreciate that there are companies that are looking back at our history, and I know Backbone did a lot of that, and I'm sad.
Well, you know, and like I said, they still technically kind of live on because, you know, Digital Eclipse was basically like, you know, part of Backbone, or was. I don't know how all that works out. I don't know why it worked out, but, you know, you can kind of say Backbone still lives on with like their, you know, Digital Eclipse doing all their porting and collections and stuff. So I don't know. Kind of just weird nuances I don't understand.
Everything just gets so much messier with game companies after like the year 2000. It's, you know,
yeah,
we'd be here all day.
Everything's gotten messier after the year 2000.
Tell me about it.
Just imagine if certain events hadn't happened, like, you know, how much cooler things potentially could have been compared to what happened. But
man, gaming died with the Dreamcast. Let's be honest.
Oh,
we saw two futures ahead of us. It was MMOs and, you know, games as a service, and it was like the best version of Sega arcade games you can imagine.
Oh,
and
yeah.
We chose poorly.
Yep. Ooh, what's this shiny black tower? This fan is. Oh God, those, like, you know, probably people were like, "Oh man, this thing's so quiet."
No, we went with the underpowered PS2. Don't get me wrong, I love my PS2, but the Dreamcast was like such this wonderful little time capsule of gaming that was like, it really was like the last, I don't mean this just in the years, like the last system of the 90s, but like the culture of what gaming was before it changed directions to be bigger in scope, more involved, bigger teams, bigger budgets and all of that stuff.
It's just when things were still allowed to be just really just weird and experimental. Like, you know, make the game that you want to make.
Yeah, Street Fighter, but with high school students.
Yeah, without much interference. Yeah. Alright. Well, speaking of Capcom stuff, this one is a strange one because it's definitely not developed by Capcom.
Not. No, so this next game is Strider from 2014. It was developed by Double Helix Games, and this track is, I believe I picked the Research Lab track. All right, that was the track Research from the 2014 Strider game, developed by Double Helix and composed by Michael John Mallow. And first off, I have to say, I'm not super familiar with Michael Mallow, but if you look at his credits, he's primarily a film and TV composer, which makes sense because he lives in Southern California. Double Helix is from Irvine. And, you know, it's a little sad because, like, I look at their game credits and I understand why they got acquired. But, man, it's sad to see them go because, like, they were just hitting their stride. Like, they started with Silent Hill Homecoming.
Okay.
They did G.I. Joe, The Rise of the Cobra, which I didn't play, but I heard was pretty good. Front Mission Evolved, which I heard was kind of all right, but, like, you know, they were kind of on this upward trend. They worked on Killer Instinct Season 1 way back in 2013. Then in 2014, they make Strider, which is, I'm just going to say, like, way, way better than I thought it would be. Like, it's a super action-heavy Metroidvania, so, like, it's frictionless. You're running through stages, and it's like, go to that thing and kill 1 million enemies on the way there. And it's like, yes, this is so awesome. And a lot of the soundtrack pays tribute to the original Strider and Strider 2 music.
Okay.
And as you mentioned during the break, very similar to like a Bionic Commando Rearm.
Yeah.
Except they did go straight Metroidvania, you know, sword upgrades, you know, double, triple jump upgrades, sword extensions, you know, switch weapon, not polarity, but, you know, there's like different beam colors, you know, use red on the red enemies, that kind of thing. But it's like, it doesn't really matter. You're there to like hack and slash a bunch of guys. You just sometimes go backtrack a little bit. Great game.
Okay.
I really, really love it. I was really disappointed when they didn't have a follow-up. I think they got absorbed as one of these like Amazon companies. When a tech company that doesn't know anything about games buys you up, if Google calls you the Stadia studio, you're not making games anymore. I'm sorry, buddy.
Oh God, no.
Yeah, you're making tech demos that get shelved, and I feel bad for you because you're getting paid better than you've ever gotten paid, but you've got creative blue balls because you're not working on games anymore. So I think they're still technically around. Yes, Amazon acquires video gaming studio Double Helix, but like shadow of its former self. This was their last game, and what a way to go out. But you know, like I was saying, I don't know terribly much about Michael Mallow, but yeah, his credits are very, very film oriented. It looks like he worked on The Lorax.
Oh, dang.
He was on the music department for that. Ice Age. What are some other movies? Kung Fu Panda 2. You can see what kind of stuff he was working on.
Yeah.
You know, very, very contemporary film composition, very heavy sound design, you know, really big textures, beautiful sample libraries.
Yeah.
I will say I picked this track specifically because the music is a little bit less like, let's do a straight cover of Strider from a track that everybody recognizes. There's like a little quote or two in there from musical passages that's like, oh yeah, there's like a Strider little, you know, theme in there. But I like it. It's like, it's the sci-fi lab.
The little theremin at the beginning.
Yeah, exactly.
I was kind of thrown off by that. I was like, what kind of, is this going to get cheesy? And then it just goes on to that dark beat type of thing. I don't know what to call
this game's a trip. Everybody's like, Hollow Knight is this great Metroidvania, and I say it's fine, it's good. Play Strider instead. It's more fun. It scratches that action platformer itch.
Like, yeah, from what you're saying, it's just one that you're just going. Not a lot of like stopping and exploring. You're just going forward, get to your goal, go back that way, get back to another goal, get this thing, keep going, and just like Is there like a combo meter on it?
There. I think so. I just remember like the majority of your time is spent just mowing down enemies like left and right. It's so, and this part in particular, the science lab has this moment that I absolutely love. You unlock this power to go through these warp gates. So they're like kind of like a slingshot, you know, like the whole Mass Effect thing, like those space slingshots, like, you know, you throw something. Obviously not speed of light stuff, but like you've been passing these things the entire game, and then you get the power, and then you're just like essentially take it to this like massive tunnel at crazy fast speeds. You know, it's just like, woof, 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 woof. You know, you're just like getting launched through progressive tunnels, and you're like, you know, like the Metroid thing, you pass by half the game that you just saw in like 30 seconds. It's like, this is badass.
Damn. Ugh,
It's great. I love this game. It doesn't get nearly the credit it deserves. It's one of these like sleeper hits. It's still really fun. You know, it's just like, it came out at that very tail end PS3, very early PS4. It's a 2D budget game. It was never going to do huge numbers, but it's, one of my favorite games of the last decade.
Dang, okay. Definitely have to look it up. At least look up some gameplay.
Oh, yeah. At least look up some gameplay, and you're going to be like, when's the next Steam sale?
Ooh. Yeah, kind of still contemplating getting a Steam Deck or not.
I've heard they're fun, man. I've got a couple of friends that have them. They really love those things. So
I just don't know if I need another. Like, you know, I got the Switch, I got the Mio Mini. I do have a laptop that's capable of playing, most things. You know, not anything within the last 4 or 5 years or so, but it's just the convenience of having something in my hand and just being able to just do it right there instead of having to schlep over to my laptop and turn it on.
I've heard a lot of friends say they love them if you can get it on a good deal, and people sell them on Craigslist and whatnot for pretty reasonable prices. And the nice thing is, other than like storage, I think most Steam Decks are pretty comparable in terms of specs. So a pretty good one can be had for not that much money these days, but I don't need to get you to spend more money on video game stuff. We're here to talk about game companies that don't exist.
No more. Can't spend money on them no more if they're not around. If them's dead.
Play Kolibri.
Oh man.
Play a hummingbird shooter.
I can. I might as well just go back to it and just muscle through it and just see what the hell happens. I don't know. But I've also started playing Dead of the Brain, which is a lot more interesting. So.
Oh, what's that one?
That's that PC 98 adventure game.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I finally got the PC 98 to work on the Mio Mini, and I've only got a few games working on it, but I'm trying to get a bunch more. But yeah, it's pretty interesting. It's just a straightforward adventure game, and zombies. A lot of graphic zombie violence.
I've never gone down the rabbit hole of trying to get the PC 98 to work, but I bet there's some gems.
Oh yeah,
in there.
and if you good place to check for. I can't remember what it was. I think I found an archive of just bunch of English translated PC 98 games. So it's definitely something to look into.
Man.
Yeah, because I think Dead of the Brain.
I already know what we can do for our next episode, because we'll talk about this offline. You just got me thinking about something, so I'll bring it up.
Oh jeez. Oh man. Yeah. Hey, Gene's a repeat volunteer, folks.
I love my weird internet video game esoterica,
it's great, isn't it?
It is. It's like there's so many of these bizarre little stories in the world of video gaming, that I can just go off on a rant about Tiger Woods and not talk at all about Tiger Woods.
Hey, we're gonna talk. We got this golf game. We're gonna talk about Dead Space. Why not? Golfing in Dead Space. Use a Necromorph's arm as the club.
I'm waiting. I think they had some sort of Dead Rising golf game as a joke, as a April Fool's type thing. I'm out of things to say, man. I'm spent.
Yeah, you're just spinning. But yeah, thank you, Gene, for just bringing this strange and unexpected topic. This is not something I would have thought of on my own, because I don't have that history with game companies in California, and it's definitely interesting.
I mean, this is a topic that's imminently repeatable, of course, but I just wanted to, it gave me an excuse to pick very specific weird games that I wanted to talk about, so that was not like Strider's a weird game, but, it's definitely one that is a little underrated for sure.
Yeah, it's definitely not something I would have found and featured on my own, and that goes for most of the tracks that we featured today. Definitely some interesting stuff, but probably not as interesting as the stuff that we usually feature on our individual shows.
We'll have some good music for the next one. I've got a great theme. Once you've celebrated, what episode number is this?
I have no idea either. I know it's going to be after 100 is when this one's going to come out.
Well, congratulations on 100 episodes and whatever this one is, I guess.
Yeah. As of we're recording this, I have almost done with episode 98. I already have an idea for 99. And then 100 is going to come out, and then I'll probably have a blast of guest episodes coming out after the new year, starting with yours.
For sure, man. Yeah, I'm excited.
And I'm still kind of coming to grips with the fact that I've made these many episodes in this amount of time.
That is you've put out so many episodes in a good time. It's been really cool to see your show evolve and sort of, find its identity. I mean, that just takes time, it's just like figuring out what, you want to do more of, what you want to do less of, and like what kind of niche you want to fill. And I've really enjoyed, honestly, I've really enjoyed having an avenue to talk about just weird nonsense, because Brian would never tolerate this. He's like, nah, man, we got to have these shows a little bit more focused. And you're like, what if we talked about composers that don't write for games but did a game that one time, like my last episode.
Yeah, like I said, just the weirder it is, the more I'm excited for it. Just bring it. I'm ready for it.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. That's the beauty, I said, of an emporium. It's just the weirdest shit you would not expect to find in a place. That's what you can call this. This is a place.
It is a place. You just got to dig into the bargain bins and find all that goodness.
Yeah. Go into the back, dig into the dusty ass like shelves on the lower part. You never know. There might be some, golden gewgaw that I found like years ago that might have value to you. I don't know.
Well, I am a trader of trash, so I've got all sorts of this stuff lined up for whenever the next one happens.
I like trash. I'm ready for it. So yeah. Well, thank you, Gene, for coming in. And I imagine most folks know who you are, but hey, it's always never hurts to tell folks who you are.
For sure. So I'm Gene. I'm one of the co-hosts of the other podcast you may have heard of, or there's plenty of them, but one of those other VGM podcasts, Pixelated Audio. We've been doing our thing since 2014. We've talked to a lot of really cool guests. We've covered some really interesting games. We tend to have a little bit more of a historical focus, which is why I tend to keep this kind of minutia in mind. Even though I barely looked at notes, I'm pulling most of this stuff from memory. So that should tell you how much I tend to think about this kind of thing. And, I've just enjoyed being involved in the game community, talking with cool people, doing historical deep dives on sound chips and game companies and composers and, even the evolution of, sound hardware. And we've talked about so many different topics. We did one show entirely about game audio preservation, like literally the mechanical process of ripping game audio and the various ways that that's done. I don't think we often think about and appreciate how much work goes into like being able to kind of quickly find these soundtracks for games that honestly I don't think anybody is digging back up again. Nobody's looking for like, oh man, that menu theme from PGA Tour 2003 really is like is my jam. I got to listen to it right now. But somebody out there did it.
Yeah. And, I've already done like a couple episodes about like, Fresh from VGM Rips, which is another site where, a lot of this stuff, like especially, chiptune, like FM, any like 8-bit, all this stuff is being archived.
Oh, yeah, we pull from there all the time. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's just really cool to like, these ones I take the time to like really credit the people that are actually ripping these packs. And I know one of the other podcasters, Ed Wilson, of the VG Embassy is actually goes by Ruiner9, and if you ever go on KH Insider and you download an MP3 from there and you see the name Ruiner9 as like kind of the author or whatever it is, that's who it is. That's Ed Wilson of the VG Embassy. He says he's like ripped hours and hours and hours of VGM for KH Insider. It's crazy.
Oh yeah, Ed he's also one of these he's the nicest dude and he does so much great work for the game VGM community. He's very humble. He doesn't like brag or anything, but I love him. I've worked with him. He's been on my show once or twice. I'm really happy that he's still active and that his podcast is still going. Check out VG Embassy. Great show. I'm a big fan. Yeah, I just listened to a couple of episodes recently. Keep doing what you're doing, Ed, if you're hearing this, which I don't know. Maybe you're not. We're all busy.
so many VGM podcasts to keep up with. It's amazing.
Barely keep up with my own.
Oh dear. Well, with that, I think we'll call this a night on this or close the store on this episode. Yes.
You don't happen to have any Acclaim Entertainment back there, do you?
I may. I don't touch it very often, but it's there. Possibly.
Yeah, marked down to like 1 cent at this point.
Acclaim, LJN, those big names that are very well known for being very much marked down.
Well, it's been a pleasure being on the show. I'm glad that you allowed me this indulgence. This is always so much fun.
Hell yeah. No, it was a great time, man. Thank you so much for bringing it in. And I look forward to what you have in mind for the next time.
You got it, bud.
And howdy, this is AJ from a more recent time, and I'm still in the dark as to what he has in mind for his third guest episode. Now, what I have here is a bit of an update, is that I'm recording this many weeks after this episode was recorded, and between that time, I actually met Gene in person at SAC Gamers Expo in December, as well as Brian Stewart, who's a pretty dang cool guy, and I gotta clarify that he is not the Brian that co-hosts Pixelated Audio. This is a different Brian, but he is nonetheless a great lover of VGM. Now, speaking of Pixelated Audio, definitely go check that out. Gene told you all about it, where you can find it. The cool thing is that both our shows cover pretty obscure VGM, but, where mine's is just like all over the place and just kind of wonky, theirs is pretty focused and a lot more contained, which makes for a really great show. And so I'm looking pretty forward to having Gene on again, as well as eventually I'd like to get Brian Mosley on here, who is the other, co-host of Pixelated Audio, because the interaction that we had at MagWest last year was, pretty cool. It was a fun time actually getting to talk with him, so I'd like to get him in here and see what he'd bring in. And hey, I even want to try to get Brian Stewart in here if he is up for it. I think he'd fit in great here at VG Emporium. Speaking of which, if this is your first time in VG Emporium, welcome, and I'm going to let you know that you can find it on all your favorite podcatchers such as Spotify, Apple, Amazon, Audible, Google, until that is gone, because I hear tell it's going to be going away pretty soon. Though, as you've heard mentioned, I have gone over 100 episodes, so reaching that threshold, a lot of these podcatchers are starting to drop earlier episodes and only keeping 100 up. So if you want to find all of them, there is the website, vgemporium.wordpress.com, or TerraPlayer, which is a hub for many a video game podcast. And then for social medias, you can find VG Emporium at Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. And there is a Discord, which you can find linked in the show notes. And there you can find different kinds of channels. You can, give me some feedback, make suggestions for future episodes or topics, as well as place special orders, which are song requests, which once I get enough, about 5 or 6, I'll do their own dedicated episode, which actually I did one last week. So now to close things out here, I'm going to tell you about what I have planned for these next few weeks. So next week, I'm going to have my 2nd year anniversary episode where I'm going to be picking my personal favorite tracks from every single month of last year, 2023. And then the following week, I'm going to have Rob Nichols of Rhythm and Pixels on, talking about tracks that could be rap instrumentals. And then the week after that, which will be the last week of January, I'm still figuring that one out. And then the first week of February is going to be St. John of Nerd Noise Radio. And we're going to be talking about really good songs from games on the Sega Genesis. So as the time I'm recording this, which is in December, to that first week of February, I'm hoping to have a couple more guests recorded as well. So definitely a lot of cool stuff to look forward to. So again, thank you for coming into VG Emporium, video game music and more, and hope you decide to come in next week for that 2-year anniversary special. And make sure to listen towards the end of the song because there's a funny little nugget at the end. If you just want to check that out, go to the 1 hour, 28 minute, 20 second mark. Bye.
That's much better. It's very stressful being the king of pain. No, the king of the game. Yes, I am the king of the game, and I have many secrets. For instance, I could show you a whole other side of Pissed Island that you've never experienced. Yes, no, yes, you haven't. And you won't, because I'm saving it for the sequel. Aren't hot tubs wonderful? I can sit here and enjoy the fact that you'll be leaving soon. No, very soon. No, now. Bye.